Hello and welcome to this section. So this is all about you accepting and coming to terms with the reality of the mothering that you experienced in your childhood. And we're going to start that process here together today and help you to be grieving the loss that's involved in that. So before we start, I just want us to take a moment to kind of come into this space together, to ground, and let's do a little breathing. So we're just going to breathe in through our nose for the count of 5, hold for 5, and breathe out through our mouth for 7, a nice slow, steady outward breath. So breathing in through your nose and hold, and out for 7. I just want you to bring your attention for a moment to the fact that this might bring up some difficult feelings, and to trust yourself that you have the capacity to cope with those feelings, and to remind yourself that it is important to look after yourself as you're healing, that you do have the ability to cope, but that it is important that you are taking care of yourself as you do so and as you go through this process. So let's first of all start really by acknowledging how challenging this piece is. Now, this whole course is difficult and confronting in different ways, and well done for being here and doing this in the first place. And I think this idea of accepting things, accepting how things were, how things are, accepting your experience as a daughter, accepting and grieving the loss involved in the reality of how you were mothered. This is really hard stuff. Okay, it's really, really difficult. It's necessary. It will help you ultimately to feel so much clearer and lighter and more able to really connect with yourself authentically and to live your life in the way that you want to, right? Because so much of the stuff that we're held back with around our mother wound comes from the bits that we haven't yet faced, the bits we haven't yet been able to grieve, been able to accept. So that's what we're doing here today. But let's just take a moment to kind of recognise that this is really difficult stuff. So I want us to acknowledge some painful truths together. Now, of course, I don't know specifically how your mother was with you, how that experience was for you as a child, but what I do know is that you didn't have the mother that you needed or the mother that you wanted. And that innately in and of itself is difficult, it's painful, and there is loss involved. It wasn't a good experience, right? The fact that you're here means that there was something painful or difficult or distressing in the relationship at some point, or maybe for much of your childhood, that it wasn't a good experience. So now let's just think about some of the ways that might, how it might have looked for you, some of the the kind of form that may have taken. So perhaps you spent your childhood trying to not get in the way of your mother. Perhaps she made you feel as if you were kind of a burden in some way, or perhaps she used you for comfort when really you wanted to just be free to be a child, to not have to worry about how she was feeling or how she was doing or what problems she might have had. Perhaps she made you change yourself to the point that you didn't really get the opportunity to understand who you are, or to learn who you are, to kind of blossom and develop into who you really are. Perhaps there were too many ways in which she asked you to be a certain type of daughter, or a certain type of girl, or perhaps now a certain type of woman. Perhaps you were always on edge around her. Perhaps you really just didn't feel safe. Perhaps her moods were unpredictable, or you got used to trying to keep her happy, which meant that you got into this hypervigilant state maybe. Perhaps she really wasn't interested in you. Perhaps she had other things in her life that took priority, and she just maybe was not able to take that genuine interest that we all crave as children. Children need to feel special to certain people, not to everybody, but certainly to their parents, and perhaps she just was not able to offer that to you. Whether any of these things resonate for you, or perhaps you want to pause and just think and look back on some of the work you did in the first section where you were understanding that dynamic, just kind of bring it to mind, because now I just want to take a moment to pause and make space for the loss involved in all of this. Having to bend or adapt, or just not having the contact that you needed with your mother as much as you needed it. And when I say contact, I don't mean that she was physically there. I mean that emotional contact, which is really what we're wanting. That's really what fills us up, what feeds us. Not having that is a profound loss. And it is really sad. It's a really sad thing to not have had that as a child. Now stay with me. This is where it can get a little bit uncomfortable. And look, I really wish that it was different for you. I really, really wish that you could have had a mother that was more able to attune to you, and that was more able to connect with you in the way that was going to fill you up and to make you feel seen and more content. So I'll invite you now just to really let yourself feel whatever you might feel about this. Of course, this is going to take time and come in waves and be a layered process. But let yourself cry if you need to cry. Let yourself feel angry if you feel angry. Let yourself feel sad, feel resentful, feel frustrated, feel whatever it is that you might be feeling. Allow that. And as I say, let that come in when it needs to come in. Of course, in this video, this is a brief video. I hope this goes some way towards just kind of helping you to connect with this part of the process. But ultimately, grieving takes time, and it does come in and it leaves us again, and then it comes back again. It might catch you off guard sometimes. It might not make sense when you notice yourself feeling this loss or feeling sad about it, but just allow yourself to connect with what you didn't get, what you needed, the sadness around that, the anger around that, whatever other feelings there might be for you around that. And feel it, let it come in, and then let it leave you, because it can leave you. We do not have to stay stuck in this state. We do not have to stay stuck in that sadness. Emotions tend to stay with us when we resist them. So then we kind of half feel them, but don't let it kind of fully in, and therefore it can't really process. It can't work itself through. So this is about allowing yourself to feel it so that it can eventually lessen, and it will. So now just do a couple of brief little exercises together. Now, first of all, I'm just going to ask you to take a breath in. So take a breath in with me, through your nose. And as you're breathing in, I want you to think of some of the ways in which your mother wasn't there for you in the way that you needed. As you're breathing in, I want you to think about moments when maybe she was physically with you, but she wasn't emotionally with you. She wasn't really connecting with you. It doesn't have to be specific memories. It could just be the sense, that feeling of maybe feeling distant from her in some way. Okay, so think of that when you breathe in. And hold those feelings and that tension. And now as you exhale, let yourself exhale and let go of some of that heaviness that you feel about that. Breathing in again. Give those ways that you weren't connected when you needed to be. And now releasing some of the heaviness that you feel about your mother not being able to connect with you in the way that you needed. Okay, and now let's do something similar. I'm going to ask you to breathe in again. And this time I want you to, as you're breathing in, think of those moments that you might see. Maybe you see other happy mother and daughter moments, or maybe you have a sense in your head of how you might have liked things to have been with your own mother. And just pull something like that to mind of this sort of sense of a better relationship that you might have had with your mother, or that other people have with their mothers. Okay, and let's just breathe in together as we hold space for that idea. And hold. Now, as you breathe out, I want you to let go of some of that weight. I want you to let go of some of that sadness, that hasn't been your experience. So, the way that your relationship with your mother has been, and the way it was, the way it played out when you were a child, is not something that we can change. You don't have to be happy about it. You don't have to be grateful about it. I'm not here to say that we can, that everything happens for a reason. Maybe that's a concept that you do subscribe to, and that's fine if that works. Maybe it's not, and that's fine too. What we know is that it was as it was. It is unchangeable. However, what is also true is that it is only a part of your life story. It doesn't define you. It is not the main storyline. It is not the thing that it might feel like it defines your childhood. Maybe it did, but that doesn't mean that it has to define you now as an adult. It certainly does not have to define the rest of your life. It doesn't have to affect your future in the way that it maybe has felt like it has affected you so far. So there's a way to know that the relationship was not what you wanted, it was not what you needed, and also that you can live well anyway. You can still have a good, full, meaningful, peaceful life, whatever kind of a life that you are wanting, that is still possible. So it has been hard, but you now have the power to make it less hard. You now have the power to make it feel less important. You are able to take some of the power out of the relationship, if you like. This is in your hands. And we can hold those two realities. We can acknowledge how difficult it's been. We can acknowledge the sadness. We can acknowledge the loss. And we can remind ourselves that that sadness and that loss does not have to be a permanent state. That is not where you need to live, in that state of sadness or loss. We acknowledge it. We've done that a bit here today. Hopefully you are able to continue doing that as much as you need. Don't force it. It will come naturally. Just don't block it. Let yourself feel these things as they come and go. And then it will get lighter. It will feel easier. And ultimately, this does not have to dictate the rest of your life. So I hope that that has been helpful for you. And through the rest of this section, we're going to be talking about different aspects of acceptance. So I look forward to helping you with the next part of acceptance as we work through this mother wound process.